I got him right here. Okay, Duke head coach Mike Krzyzewski, Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett, and Trey Jones are making their way through the holding area. We'll take an opening statement from Coach K, and then we'll open it up for questions for the student athletes specifically. If you have a question, please raise your hand and wait for a microphone to be brought to you. After the opening statement, we'll take questions for the student athletes first, and we will then dismiss the student athletes to the breakout sessions. Good afternoon. Yep.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Well, obviously, we're honored to be in the Elite Eight and excited about the opportunity to play against a storied program and coach in Michigan State and Tom Izzo. Our guys have really done a good job. Hopefully we can recover real quick. It hasn't been too many hours ago since we were here. And so that's part of our preparation, is to try to get as fresh as possible for what we expect to be an outstanding game tomorrow afternoon. So any questions?
All right, I'm going to start right down here in the middle. Again, please state your name and your affiliation and direct your questions to one of the student athletes specifically.
Paul Woody, Richmond Times-Dispatch. I'd like to start with Zion, but any other players may chime in if they wish. Zion, you undoubtedly had an opportunity to go to any number of colleges. I'm wondering why you selected Duke. Was it the tradition? Was it that you've seen players get prepared for the NBA? Was it the chance to exchange dazzling repartee with Coach K?
I think it's kind of like all the above. And also, I watched Duke growing up, so I think the opportunity to play for Coach K is something I couldn't turn down. And then also I had a great relationship with RJ, Trey, and Cam already. And, we would be in a group message talking about, trying to do something special. And then also, Coach K is the greatest, so, he knows, how to get players better. And he'll, tell you your game in a way you never looked at it. So it was just, so many factors that went into selecting Duke.
Okay, Courtney over there.
Hondo Carpenter with Spartan Nation. For the three of you, can you give us your thoughts after seeing the film, what you think of the Spartans' defensive tenacity, please?
Trey, can you start for us?
Yeah, they're a really experienced team. They got big guys inside there, physical and strong, and then they got perimeter players that are athletic as well. So they're a really good defensive team, like you said.
RJ, anything to add about the Michigan State scouting report?
Definitely experienced team. So they definitely know, what to do. Have a great coach. They have a great program. So they're definitely, a great defensive team.
All right, we're going to stay on our right-hand side.
Mark Herman from Newsday in New York. RJ, this is one for you personally. What have you learned or what have you know about your dad's college basketball career, and generally, what has he meant to your basketball?
I remember him transitioning from, just being a dunker to being able to hit some threes later in his college career. And, it's just been, great influence for me. He's kind of gone through, this college experience, so he's been able to help me just that way. Just being in my ear and giving me confidence and, just being my dad, really.
All right, we're going to come up back here right into the middle. Yep.
This is for Zion. There were a lot of Virginia Tech fans in the building yesterday, obviously some booing, but also certainly some Duke fans and probably a lot of Zion fans, too. Now, you've had some big individual performances kind of around the country this year, from New York to here, Hawaii. Have you been able to reflect just on how much of a national kind of following you've grown this year?
What's the exact question?
What's that?
What was the exact question?
Have you been able to reflect on the national following you've gotten as a college freshman and how likable you are to a lot of people?
No, I haven't thought about that at all. I'm just enjoying my college experience with my brothers and with Coach K and the coaches, and I feel like it'd be kind of selfish of me to think about that. But, I mean, I'm just trying to make the most of this opportunity and hopefully win a national championship.
We'll stay right down here.
Stephen Watto, Associated Press for Zion and Trey. Do you remember watching any Duke-Michigan State games growing up and kind of how big of a matchup this tends to be in the NCAA tournament, and how much are you looking forward to being part of one?
Right. I remember, obviously, in 2015, the matchup. I'm in the Final Four. But they have a really good program, similar to Duke. That they have a winning tradition, and I mean they were a really good coach as well, and so it'll be a good battle tomorrow.
I remember watching the 2011 Duke-Michigan State game with Kyrie Irving and also the 2015 Final Four, and both games are great. I mean, both programs have winning history, so like it's always going to be a great game.
Marty Smith, ESPN. Zion, you just called Coach the greatest of all time, and Trey, you actually said that same sentence to me last week on campus. Take us inside the program. What do you guys see that we can't see that makes him the greatest in your mind? I like that smile.
Control their playing time.
I mean, a lot. I mean, he sees the game in ways that, like, I would have never even have thought of. And, you know, like, when he makes one play call, it's not for that, like, play. It's, like, trying to give us momentum for, like, the next 3-4 plays. And I think the way he's able to adjust every year with different teams and different players, and, I mean, the way he's able to always keep us motivated, like, for every single game, I think it's, like, second to none.
All right, we'll stay right in front of Marty there.
Matt Sachs for the Hoya. This goes to any of the players. Coach mentioned the challenge of not playing with Cam, that you prepared with him all week and you weren't able to play with him last night. What was that challenge like, and will your game plan change as players if he's not able to play Sunday?
RJ, we'll start.
I mean, definitely, you know, missing Cam out there. It's tough to have a game plan and then, you know, a couple minutes before tip-off see that, you know, he's out. But we've gone through so much adversity that, you know, we were able to step up last night, and just moving forward, whether he plays or he doesn't, you know, we're going to have to give everything we got.
We'll start right down here, right underneath us.
Bob Wodowski from the Detroit News for Zion. What have you seen? Michigan State has some big guys up front line. You faced big guys before. What do you see in their front line and the challenge that awaits?
They're very aggressive and physical, and they rebound the ball very well. And, you know, they have great motors, so I think they're a great team. You know, their bigs are very great as well. So we're just going to have to, like, try our best to contain them.
And I think we want right down here in the front.
John Fanta for College Hoops Digest. Zion, you continue to say that Coach K has seen things in your game that you may have not seen in yourself. What are some of those things?
I don't know if I want to talk about that. It's kind of like a coach player.
It's an intimate.
Joe Christensen, Minneapolis Star-Tribune. Trey, can you describe your impressions of Zion when you would see like the YouTube dunk videos in high school, and then kind of how different that is from when you play with him and understanding the feel he has for the game?
Right. I mean, I heard about him before. Probably the rest of you heard about him through YouTube and things like that. Coach actually told me about him before I even got the chance to meet him, and said how good of a player he was, and that I will probably be seeing all of his highlights one day, and him dunking and things like that. But he can really play. He can pass the ball extremely well, and he's a really good playmaker. And so, I mean, when Coach says that, obviously that's going to be my first impressions too, because how well Coach knows the game and how smart he is.
Stay right in the middle.
Trey, for Trey. Is that on? Okay. What are your impressions of Cassius Winston going into this game?
Right. He has an extremely high IQ. He's a really good point guard, lead guard for them. I mean, he has the ball a lot for them. He's their playmaker. He makes all the decisions for them. So he's going to try to make the game as tough as I can on him.
Any other? Wait, we got another one. We got time for about 2 or 3 more.
Zion, I had asked RJ about you before the first day you got here. I'll return the favor. What might we not see about RJ that you know? What makes him such a top flight player?
His ability to affect the game in multiple ways, and his killer mentality. Like RJ, as you saw yesterday, he went into the half with like 7 assists, and for anybody that thinks that's an off half, you're responsible for 7 baskets. Like, that's not an off half. And I mean, in the second half, like at one point he single-handedly took the game over, and his will to win, like, I think that is the best thing about him. Like, he wants to win, and no matter what he has to do, he's going to do it.
Hondo Carpenter. Ryan, question for you. You're a physical player. You enjoy the physicality of the game. Is there a sense of excitement knowing you're going to play a team that likes the physical side of the game just as much as you do?
I mean, I'm excited for every game, but, yeah, I guess you can say I'm excited about that just because they're a great team. Like, they have winning history. Like, I'm excited to play against Michigan State. Like, that's why you come to college to be a part of games like this.
All right, we're going to dismiss the student athletes, and we'll leave Coach Krzyzewski here on the dais. The student athletes will be moving over to the breakout sessions. So Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett, Trey Jones, Marquise Bolden, and Javin Delorier are going to move to the breakout sessions, which is over your right-hand shoulder on the press row side of the arena. And we got a bunch of hands already, so Courtney will start right with Pete in the middle, and we'll kind of work our way through the middle of the room.
Mike, could we just start with a quick injury update on Cam? Obviously, it's not been long since you've been here. But
yeah, it'll be a game time decision. Like, he's getting treatment today, and we really haven't been out on the court yet. And after we stretch, and we're not going to really do anything physical today. We got to be careful. But just to see how he feels. And I will see if he's progressed, we might try to get him to shoot or – yeah, but we haven't done that yet.
Is there a diagnosis, Mike?
He's had a little bit problem with his knee. It's not structural. Okay. It's not nothing structural, and he's a jumper's knee, a tendonitis. I guess there are a number of different things, but at different times it can inhibit you, or you feel pretty good, and then you can play, or you can work yourself through it. But yesterday, we weren't able to do that.
I have one big picture question for you. This is not something on the forefront of your mind right now, facing Michigan State in 24 hours, but 2021 or 22, the NBA draft rule changes. A couple of these guys sitting up here wouldn't play for Duke or anyone, very likely, as the way things go. I'm just curious how much,
or maybe more would. I don't think it's a done deal that everyone will do that.
Sure.
Because of a big thing about going to the NBA is staying in the NBA, and trying to be prepared once you go in there, not just physically but emotionally. And I applaud, and I'm glad that kids will be given the opportunity to then make a decision. Am I ready to do that? Or the other thing, I would hope that the powers to be, that the NBA will be well prepared. The NCAA is not prepared right now. They need to be in concert with the NBA in developing a plan that is specific for men's college basketball. And that should include what an athlete gets, how he's been taken care of, whether or not there's a reentry if something I mean, it really, Pete, it's deep. And if we only look at it shallow, then we're doing a disservice to the kids. And that's why I would hope that the NCAA has someone leading this to figure it all out. There should be we should already have a plan. And I think what you do is the NBA has a plan, then we have a plan, and you say, well, do they mesh? Okay, oh, that's pretty good, your plan. In other words, we work a little bit better than our government, where we don't just sit on both sides of the aisle, but to work together for the good of the game, and the game is good if we take care of the kids who play it. And we're in this really changing time that it behooves us to be ahead of it. And that's why to comment on what's going to happen, we don't know what's going to happen. We should be figuring that out in a smoother way. And I would really be a proponent for all of you to push that issue in whatever way you think it is. I'm not telling you what to do, but that needs to happen. It can't be, well, yeah, they're going, what does that mean? What does it mean? Yeah, how are we doing all this? And so that's what I would like. That's what I would like to see happen.
Stay over there in the corner.
Stephen Wino, Associated Press, down to your right.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Following up on Pete's question, if this does happen, how for NBA making
it's going to
changes,
happen.
Yeah, how would you and other coaches have to kind of change how you evaluate and recruit high school players, if at all?
Tell me the environment that we're going to be in. That's what I'm saying. We don't know that environment. I don't know that environment. I don't know how a youngster will be taken care of. Is the G League advanced? Do they have a TV contract? Look, if it gets that, they're going to, if a kid coming out of high school does not go to college and get marketed, I would think the NBA would want to market. So is there another form of TV there that the NCAA is then competing against? I mean, all these things, those are, to me, fundamental issues here that need to be looked at. And I don't see any discussion about those. I don't, do you? No, I don't see anything. And these are just fundamental things that are going to happen because the NBA is a business. It's an amazing business. They're going to have a model. They're going to have a model. What's our model? And how do we cooperate with them and the Players Association?
We'll go right here.
So I almost feel bad bringing it back to these games. But you've had Zion for a relatively short period of time. You used to see a kid grow and mature over 4 years. What have you learned in that short period of time that may have surprised you about him, not necessarily as a player, but as a person?
Yeah, I knew he's a great kid, and coming from a really good family and community. He was a kid that was asked to play at all these prep schools and all that, and he loved his high school and his community. But having the opportunity not just to coach him, but to get to know him, he is such a genuine young man and well advanced maturity-wise. He's extremely intelligent, book-wise, but people-wise, and he's humble. He's really got everything. This is not a phony guy, and to pun a little bit, he's more than a dunker. He's a lot more than a dunker. He's a very, very special human being and player.
We'll go right there.
Mike, a lot of the spotlight I feel like nationally is obviously on Zion and RJ. Do you think Trey gets enough credit for what he does for the team? And then kind of a two-part question: how similar or not is he to his brother? I guess.
Yeah, you know, we're not in control of. We give credit. We're not in control of how you give credit. So if you want to change that, you change it, right? No, I mean, you know, we're not. You know, I'm not knocking you. I'm just saying that's the way it is. But internally, he gets a lot of credit. You know, because he's as important a player as we have. He's very similar to his brother as far as just rock solid person, teammate, smart. They're a little bit different at that age. You know, Trey is a better defender. Tyus was a better shooter, although not necessarily a better shooter than last night. And but they're big time moment players. They're not afraid of the moment. They react really well. But in the history of our program, there's not anybody who's been any better in the last couple minutes of a game in one season than Tyus was. At the end of games, he was good all the time, but at the end of games, he pretty much was perfect, for us.
Go right here.
Mitchell Gladstone, Duke Chronicle. Following up on that, about
that question.
Well, the point guard and coach relationship has always been important to you in particular. But how is your relationship with Trey? I know it was unique when he came in, but how has that evolved over the course of this season?
Yeah, it's terrific. You know, he's somebody we haven't had for a while, and in that he does basically Winston does this for Tom. He can make in-game adjustments that the coach would want to make while the game is going on. You know, they just understand the game, and they understand their team and their coaching staff, where they can make real-time adjustments, and it's a huge advantage. It's a huge advantage, and Michigan State has it with Winston, and we have it with Trey.
We're going to go on the right-hand side.
Hey, Coach Jeff Gravely, WRAL. 4 games in March, teams have had possessions with a final shot that could have beaten you. All 4 failed. Are you guys just living right? Is it the basketball gods? Where's the horseshoe? What is it?
No, I think, we've played the whole game, and yesterday, there are different things that happen in that last 30 seconds. We have to play 3 defensive possessions with 29 seconds, and then the ball went out of bounds, and they stepped on the line out of bounds. So it should have been our ball. But it's not a reviewable thing because only one guy went out of bounds. So we knew it was out of bounds, so our guys had to be tough enough. Okay, now do it again. Then it goes off your hands. And then they run a great play. And, Zion did enough on it where he was not going to the basket, he was going away, and therefore he was short. So there's a lot that goes into it, but playing the entire game till the end is the thing, and then you accept the outcome. And obviously the outcome has been good for us, or else I wouldn't have the pleasure of spending time with you all today.
Can you stay right in that area right there?
Hondo Carpenter from Spartan Nation. Coach, a couple
How'd
weeks...
you get that name, Hondo?
From the John Wayne movie.
Okay. So are you that tough a guy?
I don't think anyone's as tough as John Wayne.
All right.
All right. Coach, a few weeks ago when Tom won his 600th game, he cautioned fans and media to relax. It was half of what you had. And college basketball is such a cutthroat industry. A guy you compete with, Champions Classic, NCAA tournament recruits. For you two to have the relationship you do is very unique in the culture of college basketball.
Right.
Can you talk about that friendship?
Well, I think because we're both in it for we're not the only ones, but we're both in it for the love of the game and the love of kids and more old school. We both get paid a lot of money now, a lot, and but we didn't get in it for that. We got in it because we love the game, and he's never changed. He's a genuine guy. I hope that the people around me know that I haven't either. And he's done a lot for the game. The game is bigger than either of us or the two of us together or the matchup tomorrow. And we're just, I think we're both proud of the fact that we've been important people in the game. And, yeah, I really respect and like Tom a lot. Yeah, I think he's been great for, obviously for Michigan State, but for college basketball.
Over here, our left, Coach.
Mike, a little more global than Jeff's question. Obviously, you can have talent and skill and coaching and preparation, but at a certain point, as a coach, you do sort of have to relinquish yourself to the bounce of the ball or the basketball gods, as you like to put it.
Right.
At what point did you come to terms with how much control you can have over a game and how much you just kind of have to let see what happens?
Yeah, I think over the years, I try to let the players have more control over what goes on, and where, you know, you try to just, like yesterday, you just try to put them in certain situations where it's not so much a play, but different spots on the court where they can make reads, and when you have guys like RJ and Zion, they shouldn't be systemized, and then whatever happens, then I'm okay. I accept the result, you know, and it's our result, and I'd say I've been that way for a pretty long time now because I've had players who can do that, and yeah, it's been a heck of a tournament. It's actually been a heck of a March with Zion coming back and the ACC tournament, the 3 games in the NCAA tournament. And, you know, the thing that our team hasn't had is continuity. Since the first Syracuse game, we pretty much have not been a complete team because of some injuries. And the kids have been so resilient, and part of it is I think some guys have gotten better, like Alex's performance last night. You know, he didn't play the game before, and all of a sudden, 2 minutes before the game, you're starting. And he plays 30-something minutes, and he got 7 defensive rebounds. But, you know, he's also called upon at Syracuse, where he got 20 against their zone. And Jay Gold has done that. Even Antonio has done that. So the adversity of injury has actually given moments for a number of these kids to shine, even though they're not shining like Zion's dunk or RJ's performance in the second half or Trey's shots, but they're still shining, and it gives us a little bit more depth.
We're going to go to Marty, and we're going to work our way to the front.
Coach, back to Coach Izzo for just a second. I hope this isn't redundant. What qualities or attributes most impress you about his body of work, or do you most admire about his body of work and philosophy?
Yeah, well, I think Tom's genuine. You know, like there is no BS. You know, he's going to tell you what he feels is the truth, and you know, he's a terrific leader, and I've enjoyed my relationship because he'll tell you what he thinks, and he'll also accept what you think, and then, hey, if that's a little bit different, but it makes sense, you go with what's there. But really, it's right on the table, right on the table. I love that, and his passion for what he does. You know, he's one of the best ever. You know, and I'm glad to call him a friend, my friend.
Right in front of us, Coach.
Mike Bobwanowski from the Detroit News. Just following up a little bit on Izzo. As good as him and his program has been for a long time, well documented your record, 11-1 head-to-head with Izzo. How do you explain that, and do you almost get nervous that he's got to be due at some point?
Yeah, I'm too old to be nervous, and remember nervous. No. I'm not a big believer in coaches' records against one another, because it's not like you have the same team, the same circumstance. Somebody might have been injured. It's a time where, your team wasn't functioning as well. Just like I'm not a big guy on, records on Tuesdays or Fridays or Saturdays or whatever. You play the team that you're going to play against right now, and they're capable of handing us a defeat. And it doesn't make any difference what's happened in the past, really. And same thing like yesterday. Somebody was, or whenever we played Virginia Tech, someone's saying, well, they've beaten you 3 out of 4. Well, they didn't beat my team yesterday 3 out of 4. It's the first time my team completely played against them. They beat our Duke team a few weeks ago that wasn't complete, and they weren't complete. So those stats don't mean anything. They really don't mean anything. And that one, to me, doesn't mean a darn thing.
I'm going to take 2 more questions from the back, right in the middle.
David Hale with ESPN. This might kind of touch on what you were talking about earlier a little bit, but Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut mentioned Zion in releasing a report with the recommendation that he thought college athletes should receive more compensation or some compensation. I think Congressman from your own state of North Carolina had something similar about profiting off name and likeness. I'm curious what your thoughts are on federal involvement in these discussions, and has your experience with Zion this year and everything that surrounded him altered your perspective on those kind of talking points?
Well, I think he's become the face of a lot of issues. And it came into being when he got hurt, and then all of a sudden, everything that had to do with college basketball had Zion's face on it. The fact of involvement, I think that's good, but where does it go? Good ideas are great. How do you channel them? How do you turn them into action? And how do you coordinate good ideas from a number of different places? Or when someone says something, does it have to be their idea? So that's why when Pete asked that, we need to coordinate and I'd love, for a group to talk to those gentlemen who are in federal government. How do they see that? And then say, oh, maybe if we did it this way, we can incorporate it that way. That's not being done. And so, the right fielder's saying something, the left fielder, let's get in the clubhouse and do it as a team. The kids deserve it. The kids deserve it. And in this time, the definition of amateurism and it's outdated. We need a new model. And with all these things that are changing, it cries out for coordination of creating this new model. And if we don't do it, our game's going to suffer. Our game is going to suffer.
And our final question from right in the middle, Coach.
Yeah,
Coach,
I'm sorry.
Paul Woody, Richmond Times-Dispatch. Several years ago, you had a comeback victory over Virginia in Charlottesville when one of your players took over the game, and I can't remember who. I'm sorry.
Tyus, I think.
Yeah. It's 40 years, so the names kind of run together. So.
Me too.
Yeah. All right. After the game, and I'm paraphrasing here, you talked about how he was able to slow himself down and do what he did, and how if you sort of wished you had players for longer so you could work on slowing them down to improve their games. So what is slowing them down to improve their games, and do you miss the opportunities to have guys for 2 or 3 or 4 years to teach them what they need to know about becoming better players?
Yeah, the last part. Certainly, I'd love to have guys longer, because you get closer and you can work them. But you have to adapt and try to teach them as much as possible in a shorter period of time. As far as slowing down, talent should be used at different speeds and with different levels of motivation. And so sometimes when everything's going great, you get ahead of yourself and you don't fully think of the situation. Whereas you try to maintain a balance. The great players maintain a balance throughout a game. You know, and you know, these guys come real close to it at a young age. And then you'll see me every once in a while just kind of go, whoa, you know, like, okay, that fast break was good, but now we need to run 4 wide or whatever. And where the older ones that are really good, they would be able to do that on their own. Change in speeds, and but again, these guys have done a really good job. It's not like our 215 team did it pretty good because Quinn Cook was able to do that with the freshmen, and these guys don't have that. You know, and Emil and Matt Jones, they were steady in that regard. Okay.
All right, Coach, you're all
All
set.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep you on schedule.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Okay, we have Michigan State head coach Tom Izzo along with Cassius Winston, Matt McQuaid, and Nick Ward. We're going to start with an opening statement from Coach Izzo. Then we're going to open up the Q&A for the student athletes specifically. See a lot of familiar faces. You guys know the drill. Please raise your hand and direct one of your questions to the student athletes specifically. The student athletes will be up here for a few minutes, and then we're going to dismiss them to the breakout sessions, and Coach Izzo will stay up here on the dais. Coach, good afternoon. Take an opening statement.
Yeah, we're excited. You know, it doesn't get any better than this. I think this has been a year when players teach you more than you teach them, as resilient as they've been and kind of what they've gone through. But as we've talked about it as a staff and we've talked with our players, everything we've gotten this year, from our Big Ten championship, the Big Ten tournament, to you know, this Elite Eight appearance, has been earned, not given, and that makes it special. And the guys that earned it are the guys to the right of me, and they've taken me along for the ride. So we're excited to be here. We know that Duke is, you know, the #1 overall seed, and they've earned all their stuff too with the way that program has been, Coach K and the players. So hopefully it'll be as good a game as the billing.
All right, we'll start right in the middle with Spartan Nation.
Question for Cash and for Matt. Excuse me, Hondo Carpenter with Spartan Nation. As captains of this team, a lot of talk about Zion, but your guys' team is extremely physical too. I just asked Zion about matching up. Do you think your physicality is under the radar and not getting the attention maybe nationally that people in the Big Ten are aware of?
Matt, you want to start?
I mean, yeah. I mean, we do a lot of little things, you know, and Coach always says attention to detail, and we just try to go out there and execute as best as we can, you know, on our cutouts and just on the defensive end and everything we do. It's just all detail.
Yeah, we do a good job of hitting bodies, being physical down there, boxing out. You know, we play a physical. We play in a really physical league, so you know, physicality and stuff isn't new to us really.
Come right in row 3. Yep.
Mike Toper with Spectrum News in Raleigh. This will go either Matt or Cassius. You guys have been on a roll going back even to the Big Ten. Can you put a figure on what's gone so right to allow you guys to kind of just keep, you know, piling up win after win like this?
Cassius?
I would think our defense, you know, that's been the most consistent thing for us. Just, you know, holding teams to low percentages, cleaning up on the rebounds and things like that. Just playing Michigan State basketball for this little stretch, you know. We've been rebounding, running, defending, and that's what we do best.
Stay right in that same row.
Cassius, Matt Sachs for the Hoya. What have you seen on tape so far of Trey Jones? What's your plan of attack for tomorrow?
He's a really, really good player for that team. He does, you know, almost all the little things. You know, they got a lot of talented players, a lot of dudes that, you know, got a lot of credit, you know, and things like that. But he holds them together. He makes big plays for them. He's a really good defender. So, you know, he's a key part of that team.
We're going to stay on our right to Zach, and then we'll come to the middle.
Nick, what have you seen from Zion, and how much are you looking forward to the challenge of facing basically the guy everyone's talked about all season?
Well, you know, he's extremely athletic. He rebounds the ball at a high level. And he's a great player overall. You know, me, X, and Kenny, you know, and all the bigs really are very excited to take on this challenge tomorrow. And, you know, we'll do our best to contain him.
Right in the middle.
Michelson, State News. Nick, first of all, just the hand and kind of what's your status and how's it feeling for tomorrow?
You know what, my hand's doing good. You know, it was just a bruise, so I'll be fine. You know, it's day-by-day type thing. So I'll be fine, though.
And then obviously, it's for any of you, just the whole year nationally, Duke's been the story, Zion's been the story, but with them having 2 close calls in the past week, is there any of that kind of like leads you to guys be like, it's just a team, you know what I mean? Like, does that change anything?
I mean, I think that was our mindset going into the game anyway. They're a really good team. You know, they earned their position. They earned to be in the situation that they're in. I feel like we're a really good team also, and we earned to be in this situation too. So, you know, we both got good coaches. We both got good programs. It comes down to executing and which team plays the hardest.
Matt, anything to add in the matchup with Duke?
Yeah, I mean, both respectable teams, both earned what they had, like Cassius said. You know, we're just excited for the opportunity to play in the Elite Eight.
We're going to go on our left-hand side here.
Chris Solari, Detroit Free Press. Nick, when you landed yesterday, I guess, what was the first thought that you went through your head on that hand? And second of all, when you woke up this morning, how was it? And is there anything that's going to keep you off the court tomorrow?
Nothing was going to keep me off the court tomorrow. And, you know, my first thought when I landed on the hand was, you know, just make sure everything was all right. You know, my trainers, Nick and Doc, took me back and made sure everything was cool. And everything was good, you know. So basically, this morning, it was sore. You know, it was sore, but I expected that. So it was more about a day-by-day type feel.
Courtney, we're going to go back to your right-hand side there. Yep.
John Fanta, College Hoops Digest. Cassius, Coach Izzo has talked about how you rise above the pressure and it never really gets to you. I'm interested to know where that might have started for you in your playing career, maybe if it was in your youth or just where that gene comes from to rise above that.
As I would say, you know, it's just been a long time. I remember when I was little, I used to cry a lot. I used to let my emotions get the best of me in a lot of situations, and it just, like I said, it didn't help me any. You know what I'm saying? It would just take me away from my game, and nothing ever good came from it. So, you know, I've been through a lot of mistakes, been through a lot of situations, just keep learning and getting better to the point where I feel like there's not much that you can throw at me that I haven't seen, not a lot of situations that I haven't been in. So I'm going to figure out a way to get out of it.
Stay with Zach.
Zach Brazil, New York Post, for Cassius and Matt. When the bracket came out, everyone kind of pointed to this was the dream matchup, Michigan State Duke. You know, obviously they're freshmen against your experience and your savvy. Was this something you were looking forward to or hoping to see to get this challenge against the team that everyone kind of is pegged as the favorite from day one?
I don't say we were looking forward to it. You know, just we focus on one game at a time, and that's been our mindset the whole way. And you know, now that we're in this situation, we're not afraid of it. You know, we embrace challenges, we embrace opportunities. You know, they're the highest #1 seed. You know, so it's gonna be a huge game, a huge opportunity for us, and we're looking to take advantage of it.
Yeah, like Cassius said, just having that one-game mentality and winning the weekend. You know, we knew big picture if we would probably had to see them, but we were just taking it one game at a time, and now we have the opportunity to play them.
Stand back with Marty.
Marty Smith, ESPN. I'd like to hear from all three of you guys, please. How would you describe Coach Izzo's impact on your lives, both as men and as players? Don't cry, Coach.
Nick, can you start on that, please?
Well, Coach Izzo just wants the best for you. You know, he pushes you to your limit each and every day, which is only going to help you, you know, on and off the court, you know, just seeing your full potential. And he's never satisfied, which is good, you know, because he doesn't accept mediocrity. So he's just a big role model for me, you know, just the way he does things and the way he's never satisfied really inspires me.
Yeah, you know, Coach, one of the most passionate people I ever met, always coming ready to work. And I know, like, I mean, you guys only saw him, like, that one clip of him, like, that got on Henny, holding him accountable. What y'all don't see is him, like, laughing with us at practice, laughing with us off the court, joking around with us, you know. When somebody's going through something, him being the first one to call or just, you know, help us get through tough times, you know. I mean, like, he's always the first one at our door, you know. He always says call us whenever he wants. You know, he's a big part of everyone on this team's lives.
Yeah, definitely just a huge part of, you know, the person and the player I am today, just constantly pushing you, constantly wanting you to get better, constantly, you know, believing in you more than maybe you believe in yourself. And, you know, that's just huge. You know, a lot of things thrown at you, a lot of things you got to learn on the fly. He with you, you know, every step of the way, just pushing you.
And guys on our right-hand side from the standing room.
Casey Harrison, State News. For the players, I guess just can you take me through your initial play against Duke in 2016 and from then how you guys have grown as players to at this point in time?
Cassius, you want to start and we'll go the other way? Can you repeat the question one more time, please?
Is that my freshman year?
Yeah, your freshman year, played it at Duke at Cameron Indoor Stadium.
Wow.
The experiences from that game and how you feel you've grown as players since then.
Oh, man. That felt like so long ago. Yeah, I am. Like I said, I feel like we're more more confident. We know more about ourselves, the type of team we are. We know the system. We know the coach better. All type of things. You know, we've grown over these years, and I feel like, you know, individually we're much better players, and that makes us better as a team too.
Yeah, I mean, we came a long way from that game. You know, I mean, that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, we've all become more confident and better players, and you know, it's a whole different team. You know, we're really close together and well connected.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, that was a long time ago now, just thinking about it. But, you know, we're more experienced now. You know, we've been through everything as far as injuries, you know, and a whole bunch of adversity. So that made us who we are today.
Right down here on our right-hand corner.
Mark Herman from Newsday, New York. Cassius, just as a basketball fan, how much did you watch Duke, even as when you were a kid? And when you just hear Duke, what comes to mind?
You see them a lot. You know, like I said, they got a history of really good teams, really good players, and so, you know, you always see Duke. You always see them doing big things. So, you know, they're fun to watch. You definitely, like I said, when you think of college basketball, that's one of the things that you think of, just that organization. And, you know, they earned it. They did a lot of great things throughout the years, had a lot of good players come through there.
Any other questions for the Michigan State student athletes? All right, you guys are dismissed. You guys will be making your way with your sports information director, Max Carey, to the breakout sessions. The Michigan State student athletes that are headed to the breakout sessions: Cassius Winston, Aaron Henry, Matt McQuaid, Xavier Tillman, and Kenny Coynes. And we'll open up the Q&A for Coach Izzo. We'll start right here in the middle with Pete.
Tom, Pete Thamel with Yahoo, another guardian of the game-ish type question here. I asked Coach K a little bit, again, you're not sitting around reflecting on this at night with Duke there tomorrow, but I asked him about how he sees the game changing when the one and done changes in 21 or 22, whenever the NBA rule goes in. And he basically said, we don't really have a plan in college basketball right now for that. I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on, that'll be the next, obviously, major paradigm shift in the sport. I'm wondering what your thoughts are as you look ahead to that.
Well, there's so many moving parts right now, you know, with the G League and those rules and the NBA and what happens there. You know, I've stayed the same course the whole time. I honestly am still worried more about the kids and the decisions that they make and who's influencing those decisions. And, you know, everybody else say, well, the coaches make a lot of money and the teams make a lot of money and the colleges make a lot of money. But what we never talk about is the kids could lose a lot of money. Making a wrong decision at 18 or not ready for the world that you're entering. One of my first recruits and my favorite guys, the guy named Steve Smith, and I remember him saying to me many a time still to this day, you know, it is a job. You know, the NBA is a job. It's a job just like you got and I got. Some of them make a lot more money than you, and some of them make a lot more money than me. But as we all learn as we get older, money isn't the only thing that makes you happy, because there's also a lot of pitfalls in that. And I just wonder where I'd be at 18, what I'd be ready for. Well, I don't wonder. I know what I would have been ready for. And so I worry more for the players. And yet everybody's trying to say players should have all these rights. If you could make such good decisions at certain ages, I still always wonder, why do you got to be 36 to be the president? You know, it's because you don't make as good of decisions when you're younger. And, hell, until my dad died, I still asked him for his opinion on things and this and that. I think these kids, I get a lot of people in their circle, and that's the only thing I worry about. If it's one and done, if it's coming right out of high school, if it's 2 years and done, we're going to play by the same rules, and probably I'll keep my job, and probably the school won't go under. But I really worry about how many kids either don't make it or make it, but their life's been tainted because they're not mature enough to handle those situations. And I laugh at the people, because I'm not against it at all. I don't think there's moving parts that I don't think we know. And then it'll take 5-6 years to figure out, was it good or was it bad? And I don't know. There's only a couple LeBrons and Kobes out there. There's a lot of people that have gone the other way, and that's the only thing I worry about. It's for them. Not going to make any difference to me.
Right here in the middle of the room.
John Teitel from HoopsHD.com. Coach, you faced Coach K in the tournament now for 2 decades, dating back to the 1999 Final Four. I was wondering, how has your and/or his style or objectives changed over time over the past 20 years when you see a guy over and over and over in March?
You know, I see him, and I don't like seeing him as much because we haven't had as much success, but what I do is I have incredible respect for what he's done. I think any coach, any player, any person, any CEO that can consistently work at a level of excellence, I'm a fan of. And I don't think we've changed that much. I don't think he's changed that much. He dipped into the more one-and-done style and has found a way as like a chameleon. He just can figure out a way to make it work for him and has done an excellent job of that. Maybe that's the only thing that's been a lot different is the number of one-and-done players they had. We have a few, not as many, but he's maintained he's maintained it since the late 80s when I really started watching them and figuring out how they do things from the Johnny Dawkins, Jay Billis era, through the Grand Hills and then Jay Williams and the guys we played in that first 98 game, and then we were in a couple Final Fours that they were in, sometimes played them, sometimes didn't. But you always keep an eye on the programs, and I think everybody does this in life, that have been successful, and you try to figure out, how do they do it, and then how do you beat them. I figured out a little bit how they've done it. Haven't figured out as well how to beat them, so I'm still working on that. That's why we're still a work in progress.
We're going to go over there with Zach.
Zach Brazil, New York Post. Tom, have you ever coached or seen someone at this level like Zion, and how just difficult is it going to be to deal with him?
Yeah, you all know I'm a big football fan. Khalil Mack is a guy that I kind of look at and say, geez, if I could borrow somebody from the Bears, maybe we could cover him. He's an incredible athlete. But what I loved watching about him up close and personal that I didn't see is he really, and I don't have any idea, but he really seems like an incredible person. Seems like a good teammate. Doesn't seem like a guy with an ego for the skills he has. He seems to play as hard as anybody. He's got the most incredible first step. That's why he's getting all those steals. Or he can take one dribble and cover more space than most human beings that I know can do. And so, and then he has the strength to finish at the end. So he's not Superman, but he's damn close. And we're just going to have to figure out a way, and I think most people have, that, great players usually take more than one person to cover them. The problem is they have some other weapons, but he is everybody that said everything about him, I think they're all true. And I guess what I like about him is to have a college basketball player that seems content where he is, not worried about where he's going. When they talked about him having the injury and some people brought up shutting it down, I have no clue. I just sat back in my house and I said, from what I watched, that kid is not shutting it down. He was born to be a basketball player. He's born to be an athlete. And, in that respect, it's going to be good to play against somebody that I respect in different ways than just as a great player.
I'm going to go to the middle of the room here.
Joe Giuliano, Philadelphia Inquirer. Tom, what has the leadership of Cassius Winston meant to your team this year, and how have you seen his maturity develop since he first joined your program?
He really has matured a lot, and his maturity's been more on the court. He's one of the more mature players I've known. He's one of the better students that I've had. He's just, his two brothers are two of the most important people in his life. He's pretty grounded. In fact, he's an extremely grounded kid, but he has grown as a player. He's become a better defensive player. He's become more talkative. He realizes that I've been harping on him for 2 years that, when the head dies, the body follows. And when you're a quarterback, you're the head, And every once in a while I say, did you see those little ducklings following you again? If you don't do it the right way, or if you don't motivate them the right way, or if you don't drag them with you, You know, they're going to follow you wherever way you go. You know, sometimes Cassius can be Cassius. He's got a sense to him that you wonder how passionate he is sometimes because he's always stayed so even-keeled. But I know inside there's a burning desire, but sometimes the other players don't. So I say, you know, like today I just said, practice, you know, remember, you got to bring it, even if it's not as much physically, you got to bring it emotionally and communicatively. And I think that's where he's really, really growing. And he's a special kid, you know, and he's still the guy that you'd line up, and I'm not sure you'd pick him out to be one of the best basketball players in the country. But when you watch the things he does and the way he handles himself and the IQ that he has, which is off the charts, he's found a way to be a hell of a player.
Question
hey,
from the
Tom,
standing room.
Jonathan Deutsch, WEYI in Flint. I know you just talked about how much you respect Coach K and his program, but what is your relationship like with him, and how much do you guys actually get to interact during the year or during the offseason?
Well, it got real close a couple years ago, you know, when my son was picking teams, and he picked Duke. And I disowned my son for a year or two, but I remember when Duke beat us that year, Coach K had made the statement that he's always got a scholarship at Duke. Well, now he's graduating from high school, so Mickey's going to be short some money because I think I'm going to get Steven to go there. But I've had a good relationship with Mike. I think, you know, I respect people that do it the right way and that have, again, found this consistency over, man, it's been 30 years or maybe more, you know. And, you know, we used to be on some boards together and some things, so I knew him that way. And I am on still a couple things with him. But, you know, I'd say it's a good, healthy relationship, except one hasn't won as many games against the other, and hope to find a way to change that.
We're going right back in the middle of the room.
Tom, I know you sort of made a face when I asked about Duke's close calls over the past week. Over the course of the year, and with them being, you know, sort of the story and everything, but your team has beaten teams that are maybe more athletic than your team, even last night, probably. And so how do you kind of reconcile those two things? The fact that, yeah, Duke's a great team, they got great players, but your team is...
Well, you know what I'm proud of about our team? We've played 24 Big Ten games this year. We've played, I think we've won more quad one wins than anybody in the country. We have not lucked out to get here. We've earned our way here, and we've earned our way here through some injuries. I mean, yes, they've had Zion, and I don't have a player like that, but I've had 4 or 5 that have been injured, and we've kind of had to regroup, and I think we grew from that. And, you know, for some reason, I'm not as big and strong as some Michigan State teams are, but this group has been a little more fearless. And I've had some knockdown, drag-out teams that maybe weren't as mentally comfortable with where they are. And I think all the adversity we've gone through has made us maybe more mentally tough than physically tough. Last night, you know, our whole MO was to slay the dragon that was, you know, so physical and so big. And our guys found a way to rise to the occasion. And, you know, I still think the Big Ten, as evident with us and, you know, Purdue still hanging around. It was a very good conference, and we found a way to win the regular season with Purdue and found a way to win the Big Ten tournament. So, you know what? We have a player that is here this weekend named Andre Hudson, and he went to 4 Final Fours, and he once said, you know, when we were going against different teams back then, to be the best, you got to beat the best. Well, we have a chance. Not everybody has a chance to do that. But Duke is, as you say, everybody's favorite, and they've been the number one, and so it's our chance to go against the best, and I think we're looking forward to that.
Adam?
Hey, Tom, Adam Zagoria here in the middle. How you doing?
Good, Adam.
Just on the one-and-done thing,
RJ and Zion, probably would have been drafted had there been no rule, last year.
Damn, I vote for the rule to change.
But how much do you think it benefits them both physically and, let's face it, financially, that they were at Duke for a year? They're playing against college guys and they're building up their brand before they go to the NBA.
Maybe of all the things that I would be an advocate for, I mean, we act like college is not important, and I'm not saying I know for some of my guys that are great students, yeah, it's important that way. For some of my guys that aren't as good as students, it's very important for them that way. But the experience, I talk about all the time that there's certain phases of your life when you have things happen that become memories. And that's what life is, it's a bunch of those memories. And I've always said, my buddy Mariucci and I can sit around to this day and we both had a lot of success, but we both talk about college. What was it like living in that old trailer back home, and we just get, it's a topic beyond topics, when our guys come back, even our alums now, we did some crazy things, like many years ago before legal systems and everybody in the internet, we did practice once with football pads, and people would think that was crazy. That's the most talked about thing we have when we have that reunion and they're having a beer and I'm having a pop because I'm not allowed to drink in case anybody sees me. That's the topic of conversation. And pro ball is great and I love the NBA, but it's different. It's a job. It is a job. This is not a job. It's, you kind of volunteer to be here, and once you get there, it's a little different. But I think it's going to be good for them. I really do. I think, watching those two guys and seeing Zion have to deal with all the pressures, and it doesn't look like he's changed. I'm not with him on a daily basis, but I know I had Jaren Jackson last year and Miles Bridges, and I don't think some of these guys get enough credit on how classy and how good they are. We build them up, put them on pedestals so we can rip them down, but I think college helps you learn how to deal with that. And don't care if they're allowed out of high school, if it's one and done, if it's two and done, if it's three and done. But I do think that there is great value in anybody that gets to go to college and be a college kid. Be able to make a mistake and it not cost you the world, I think that we're, watch what you wish for a little bit. And if it works out for them, God bless them.
Right down here in the right-hand side.
Hondo Carpenter, Spartan Nation. Tom, last year's team was a lot like this year's Duke. A lot of individual talent, great players, high draft picks. There may not even be a first-round draft pick on this year's team. But this toughness, can it be attributed to what they went through last year with all the off-court adversity that wasn't fair to them? Could that have instilled the toughness in this team that you've even wondered where did it come from?
It could have. Because I do wonder sometimes where I don't see the same guys, I had a Travis Walton or Mateen Cleaves or, and Cassius isn't the same makeup on that, I had a Morris Peterson or Jason Richards, and Matt McQuaid isn't the same makeup as that, a Zach Randolph. Nick's close in some of those ways as far as toughness, but I think that just all the different adversity. We found a way to win 60-some games in 2 years and playing still one of the best schedules. And I think that helped too, And so we've kind of hung in there and we've kind of grown together, That's what's so cool about this whole thing is there'll be relationships for life. This is a very connected team. And I used to use the word close or everybody got along, but connected means that there's just a line, one to another, all the way down. And whether that'll be good enough tomorrow, I don't know, but I'm looking forward to the opportunity. It is one of the things you did dream of. And I heard someone ask a question when the pairings came out, we're allowed to, we're not supposed to talk about it, but anybody, if you're dreaming big, you got to look at it and say, what if we could play this team to get to the Final Four? Because winning games during the tournament aren't as exciting anymore because we've been there and done that. And so this is a matchup that I don't know how many people want, but it's 1 versus 2. Is there one other one? 1 versus 2. I think Kentucky and who? You're supposed to know that.
Just directing traffic, Coach.
Oh. Oh. So we're the only 1 versus 2. Not that it really matters, but you know, it's really what you want. The last game of the day to go to the Final Four. You know, I hear kids talk about, you know, shooting that free throw or making that 3 or that layup that you did out in your driveway. Well, for a coach, this is what you do. You dream of it, and now you get to live your dream. How cool is that?
I think we got time for 2 or 3 more. We're going to start right here in the middle.
Tom, over here, right in front of you. For all you've accomplished, you've also talked and even joked about still chasing Duke, and could you ever even catch Coach K in victories and everything else, and the 1-11 record and all that stuff comes up. Is this one of your last real obsessions? Is this the great white whale you're chasing?
Hey, you're calling Coach K a white whale, huh? You know, it's what everybody should do, I think. Everybody has a standard you want to get to. And, you know, when players say you're never satisfied, why would you be satisfied unless you've, you know, it's time to hang up the whistle, you know? Why would you be? There's always, what he motivates me to do is there's always another challenge, you know? I was around during the John Wooden era, but, you know, in a lot of ways it was a different era back then too. And, but I wasn't coaching then, you know? He has done it as consistently and as well. And so when I look at that, or when I look at my buddy Nick Saban, who has done it as consistently and well on a year in, year out basis, you know, that's what I want for me, just like what I want for my players is them to max out. So I want to max out. I don't know if I'm, you know, I'm not, I got bigger goals than just beating Duke. You know, I'd like to get back to another Final Four. I'd like to win another national championship. I'd like to get our program in a position where whenever I'm done, it's the basement's built so strong that it'll go forever. I want to, you know, I'm on board still. I want to do what's right for college basketball. And so I got a lot of goals, you know, and but I think I could focus in on making one of them the game tomorrow night and see if we could change that 1-11 record that, you know, hell, not many guys outside of their league will play them 11 times. So I figured that, you know, we played them a lot. We played them down there a lot. We played them in different events. And we've knocked on the door. It hasn't opened yet. One of these days it's going to open.
2 more, right down here on the right-hand side.
What was your reaction when you saw Zion go up way up and get that alley-oop dunk last night? And also, what was your reaction for Buzz Williams when at the end of the game when they had a perfect play and it just didn't go in?
That's the beauty of basketball. You know, basketball, it can happen in football, but I say in basketball, between the three-point shot, fouls, different things, a lot of things affect the game a little differently. And, you know, watching Zion go up and up, I said we better make sure we either put a lot of pressure on the ball or we don't let him get to the rim. And watching Buzz and the job he's done there, you know, I love Buzz. He's tough as nails and came up with a great play at the end. And, you know, feel for the kid who missed it because, you know, you kind of live with that. But you know, that's what sports is all about. There's a lot of highs. There's a lot of lows. There's the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, as they used to say. And but, you know, in Zion, you got a kid who I'd say is kind of, you know, every so often, you know, he's not a every year type of guy. And I watched him up close and personal yesterday, and now we're going to get to play him. And it's not going to be Michigan State against Zion. It's not going to be Krzyzewski against Izzo. It's going to be Michigan State against Duke. And I'm proud that I got a team that I think is ready for that challenge.
I think we got the last one from Marty right in the middle.
Coach, when you walked in the door in East Lansing all those years ago, what did you hope to achieve? And how does reality compare with all of these Elite Eight trips and all of these victories
Yeah.
and this resume you've accrued?
You know, I just hope to get a job. I mean, I applied for the job 3 times with Judd and turned me down 3 times, so I begged to be a GA, and that was when I first walked in the door. I was a GA, and just dreaming about, you know, I'll still remember the first Big Ten game, 10,000 people in the arena, and it was more than in my hometown, and I just sat there and looked around like a kid in a candy store. And then, you know, when we started winning and we went to that first Final Four, and first NCAA tournament actually in '98, and then the Final Four in '99, it was a dream come true, you know. And I said, Mariucci's been with me at most of them, and we just used to sit in my room and say, can you believe this is happening to us? And that is a cool thing. And I say to the day I die that I want everybody I touch to get to do what I do. And that is to live what you dreamed about and you talked about. Probably some of this stuff, when I'm done, I'll say superseded my expectations. But as long as I'm in it, I think I'll keep my expectations higher than what I was dreaming and see if I can reach them myself. So, you know, I wish my dad was alive. I wish Judd was alive, because I think they would both enjoy this kind of setting. And Judd, time after time, you know, would pull for me, would talk to me. I seen Gene Cady in the stands the other day pulling for Matt Painter. I mean, I hope I become one of those coaches that really puts a lot into the people that take over for me, like those guys did for us, because that's pretty cool, you know, in this day and age where half the people would be mad if the guy that followed them succeeded. And so I've been blessed, Marty, and I've been the dreams that I had have been superseded, and yet I think I'm going to pick some new dreams and see if I can go a little farther.
All right, Coach, you're all set. Good luck
Thanks,
tomorrow.
guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.